Philip Pullman once said, "After nourishment, shelter, and companionship, stories are the thing we need most in the world." We have been telling stories for thousands of years, sharing them even before the invention of writing. Telling a story is a very influential method that lets you connect and deliver a message to your audience in a way that resonates and helps them understand at a much deeper level. What you may not know is that stories are an integral part in influence and persuasion. Those in sales and marketing have known for a long time that stories trump data when it comes to persuasion, because stories are easier to understand and relate to. A narrative uses both data and emotions, which is way more effective in engaging a listener than just data alone. But why start telling stories in the first place? Stories are able to transport our mind to another place. They have the power to make us imagine and see beyond what is possible for us. As Napoleon Hill said, if the mind can conceive it and believe it, it can achieve it. And stories are a way to make that happen. So I invite you to join me on this journey as I speak to leading UK copywriter, author of 19 books, and authority on making money with Kindle ebooks and Amazon paperbacks, Chris Payne, as he shares how stories can be used to connect with others to create meaningful connections both in your business and personal life. Hi everybody, I'm Jatinder Palahar. Welcome to another Digital Rapport Master Series interview. And today we have a very, very interesting interview for you, because sometimes you have people who are the secret behind the secret, who's the success behind somebody else, and you don't necessarily always see them in the forefront, but they've done amazing things in the background. So yeah, today we got Chris Payne. So Chris, thank you very much firstly for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today.
My pleasure, Jatinder.
Just so the people get to know you a bit more, just feel free to let us know what you do, how long you've been in the industry for, what things you're working on.
Well, I can go back about 20 years really. I got made redundant from a business that I was working in. So I had no job. I thought, well, what could I make money from? I didn't want to work for somebody else. So I thought I'll set up my own business. So I was really into personal development. Yeah. So I thought, well, what if I set up a mail order business selling personal development, CD sets and gadgetry? So I set up a business called Life Tools in my back bedroom in my home. And what I did was put very small adverts in new age magazines like Kindred Spirit initially. And when I'd spend £100, I'd make 5 or 10 times that back in profit. So I reinvested back in, did bigger adverts, and eventually went to full page, full colour, and then multiple pages. And so I was in Men's Health magazine, Viz Comic, the Sunday Times newspaper, The Sun, all these papers. And in the end, I built up a substantial business with 50,000 customers. 250,000 people rang up. This is the days before internet. Right. They either rang up or wrote in with a coupon to get some information, and we'd mail out information about a product, and then they would buy. So most of our audience were spending $200 or $300, £400, $100 a time. So we were doing millions of dollars of revenue a year. I had a team up to 18 people any one time. And I was mailing up to 1 million letters a year around the UK. So a letter is like 16 pages of text. Okay, all right. 2-colour text with my signature at the end and some pictures in there. And then a colour brochure and an order form and a reply envelope, and all that will be folded up into an envelope with writing on the front or the back, and they would go in the post and get a big chunk through what people would call junk mail. I wouldn't call it junk mail, but it was because it was good stuff, and we'd send them up to nearly 1 million of those in a year. And as a result, we did very, very well. So we would do like 10,000 sets of a course called photo reading, how to read at tremendous speed. I don't know if you ever heard of the Sedona method. Yeah. All right. So it's a way of letting go of anger and sadness. Well, I did 7,000 sets of that. So at the time, Sedona method wasn't even known about in the UK. Well, I came across the guy, Hale Dwoskin, in the States at a retreat, invited him over to do a presentation. When he launched his first audio program, we launched it, and I say we did 7,000 sets. And I say we brought him over for various seminars. So we're doing all that kind of stuff, and that filter reading is very popular. I know somebody else that's part of this program is Marilyn Devonish.
That's right.
And she came across photo reading through one of our mailings.
Right.
And got involved, and there's various other photo reading trainers around the UK that came through what I brought into the UK. So I promoted Bob Proctor with his Born Rich program. Joe Vitale, I've done a joint venture kind of thing. Mike Dooley was in The Secret, so I've done some stuff with him, bits of things. All kinds of people have been around. So that was the kind of business that I was involved in.
Yeah.
So what I do now is I mainly consult. So I work with individuals who generally have a problem. They're stuck in some way. They have an online presence. They might have a website that's not giving them the money that they need. They have an online course that they've launched, and it's like, oops, I've got like 3 sales from a 3,000 to 4,000 email list. Or they're about to launch a course, or they want me to help them put together a weekend workshop and a mastermind program. And they come to me and say, Chris, they know what I've done in the past. How can I help them achieve that? So what they do is they come here. This is my home. And so they'll come for a day, 2 days, 3 days, and they come with a problem, and they leave with that fixed. So we'll actually work on the copy while they're here. We'll film video while they're here, build the funnel while they're here, and actually do the work on the sales letter on screen. So it's all done before they leave.
Right.
That's what I do at the moment. I love doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, you mentioned your first product. It was direct mail. What was the first product?
Well, the first actually product I really launched was a little catalogue which went out in small numbers. But the real first success was a relaxation device called the Mind Lab, which were goggles and headphones in a small box. And the device sent pulsed lights through these goggles and got you into a relaxed state. And I did 15,000 units of those at prices up to about $500. And got onto TV and radio with that, and various celebrities bought these devices from me.
Right.
But that was we'd advertise that on all the train magazines up and down the country, as well as in Cosmo magazine, Cosmopolitan, all kinds of places like that.
Right. So how did you come across that? What?
Well, I'm just really into gadgetry. We talked before we started filming about your interest and how you got really into personal development.
Yeah.
Well, I just happened to go to the Consumer Electronics Show in the States and tried one of these devices on. And I just almost felt weightless as I was using it. It's like, this is a profound relaxation state. So it is meditating me, this device.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'd love to sell these devices. And I remember importing 6 of these in a box.
Yeah.
And I think at the peak, we were ordering in 500 of these or 1,000 of these at a time.
Yeah.
So you imagine I had a big warehouse. They were coming through. We were reboxing them and putting CDs in. So I had a set of 12 or so CDs would go in the box as well. Yep. And a book, 3 books that I created to create a big package that people have a complete program of relaxation, accelerated learning, anxiety reduction, and so on.
Right. Would you say that the learnings from that, or when you started to do that, was the start of what you do today?
Very much, yes.
So what would you say were the key things that you got out of that? Because like you said, you came across the product, you liked it. Did you want to sell it, or did you think there's a need for it in the market, or what was your thinking around that? How did you actually get it out there then?
Well, what really made my approach was, why don't I find stuff that I think is awesome? And write about it enthusiastically.
Right.
And I felt there was a sufficient number of people that have a similar interest to me. I mean, there are a set of meditators, for example, or people who want to really relax, who would never use a gadget. But there's also a chunk of the population that would.
Yep.
And this was in the days before the iPod and the iPhone.
Yep.
So gadgetry like this was usual. People weren't going online then. Just a few years before people started going online. So when they saw what I had to offer in an advert, it was like, whoa, tell me more.
Right.
And I was offering a product. It was, imagine I was writing a long sales letter talking about how I came across the device, what I experienced using the device. We're offering a money back guarantee. And I had a couple of famous people giving testimonials saying how great it was. And I had lots of users saying their own experience, and people going, that person looks like me, they have similar challenges and life circumstances. I'm gonna give this a try. And I learnt this concept of know, like, and trust. They got to know me. There was a personality involved.
Sure.
They got to like, I imagine, to a level, what I stood for. And I talked about the birth of my first son and my wife and how he went and discovered these devices and CD sets overseas. And then they got to trust. And when they trusted, they spent money.
How did you come about with knowing what to talk about and write about in that situation and scenario? Was it passion driven, or did you actually then say, okay, who's going to be interested in this product, and do I come from their angle on how I market the information, basically?
Yes. So, for example, when it came to photo reading, when we launched the audio version of that, in America, they hadn't, I was just about to launch it themselves. So it wasn't like there was sealed sales material.
Right.
All I had was a set of audio recordings and a workbook or two and a dictionary, and that came bundled with it. So how do you sell that? So all I could talk about was my own experience of working through these audios, saying that I had this wealth. There's books around here, hundreds of books. At the time, I had a couple of thousand non-fiction books in my home because that was my real interest. And I wanted to absorb this information quickly. So I talked about my experience of using the audio program. I had met Paul McKenna, who very famous now. He was on a photo reading workshop that I attended. It was one of his first events, and he was just this guy, and we got chatting and really got on together. And so we've kept in communication since then, and he's given me a lovely testimonial when we did a joint promotion. So I had his story of using photo reading, which made a difference. So then I would write the material with enthusiasm, say, look, you try this audio program. It's a few $100s. If it isn't what you're looking for, there's a 60-day money back guarantee. So if you're not reading at much faster rates and retaining it for longer, simply return the course and we'll give you all your money back. And I was like, wow. So as we started to sell the first units, what happened then was we were getting stories, and I would speak to people over the phone. Right. So because there was that initial, when they rang up for the information, they'd speak to me or one of my team, and if they said, yes, I'm inquiring from an advert in Men's Health magazine, I'd say, oh really? So tell me, what is it that interests you about about reading faster and so on. So I'd get a sense of it. Well, one day, this guy, we got chatting. It's amazing how the name just disappeared from me in my mind. But anyway, this guy rings up, Peter, and said, you'll never believe it. I've just got my certificate from the Open University. I've got 97% or whatever it was in one of the papers and 93% in another paper. And I'm just staggered. I've done so well in my own Open University degree. And of course, Open University is a correspondence course in the UK set up by the government. So you can almost do you can do a degree at a distance.
Yeah.
So anybody who's working full-time can study in the evenings and weekends
Yeah.
and go to the occasional gathering and then do the exams. So he was staggered. He got this result. Said, Peter, I said, get me a photograph.
Yeah.
So his girlfriend at the time took a photograph of him with this certificate, and then I did an advert in the national press. Say I got 95% in my Open University exam, all thanks to photo reading. It says, hi, my name is Peter and this is my story, and it was over 3 columns.
Yep.
And at the end was a coupon to send for information. Well, when people rang up, they said, I saw the article on photo reading in the national press. It wasn't an article, it's an advert.
Yes.
But it looked like an article, so I made it look as though it was an article in that magazine.
Yep.
And it'd be so like the magazine that sometimes the advertising department said, can you just put advertisements at the top of the page? And we had so many people doing that way. I actually had one of the reasons I did those 3 columns was I'd done an advert for the Mind Lab relaxation device and put the picture of the device and a whole series of text.
Okay.
And the review in Precision Marketing magazine says there's far too much text.
Right.
And I thought, you plonker, you have no understanding how to sell.
Yep.
That advert is I'm spending $1,000 or $3,000 on that advert, and it's bringing in 5 times that in profit, and you're telling me there's too many words. So I thought when I did photo reading, I'm going to do even more words, and that's when I did 3 columns of really small text.
Okay.
And I was getting up to a 10 times return on investment.
Right.
So it's not often you put £1,000 in the bank for safekeeping, and within 60 days you withdraw 10,000.
That's right.
So put 1,000 in the bank and withdraw 10. That doesn't happen in most banks, not as far as I know. Anyway. So this is a great. Now, of course, I had a couple of people come to me and say, I would never in a million years ever spend £1,000 or $1,000 an advert. And I'm thinking, why not? When if it's a return, but it's too risky. Well, I didn't think it was a risk because I knew what I was doing. I've been doing it for years, so I knew I would get hundreds of inquiries and 15% of those would actually go and buy the product. So I learned a lot about the power of testimonial, because it wasn't me saying this product is the best thing since sliced bread. You know, it is amazing. It is really great. You need to buy from me because I'm great. You know, it wasn't like that. It was, here is somebody who was confused, unsure, skeptical, bought the device, wasn't so sure at first, and then suddenly something would change. And the way that it transformed them as individuals, I wrote about, but in their language. So I never had a testimony which says, I bought the photo reading audio course, it was great, I am happy. It was far more, which was, I was really struggling, I haven't got time, I've got 3 screaming kids, and at night, when they've gone to bed, I need to sit down and study. And mine was tired and I was struggling and I just couldn't concentrate on the page. But then I learned to photo read, and suddenly the words almost came to life on the page. It was almost like they lifted off the page and I could feel my brain tingling as the new information came through. That kind of thing. But it was their language. Now,
the social proof on this.
It was the proof, and people said, that seems real. And there was a full name. It didn't say John C. It said Peter Smith in Bristol, and there are people saying, well, I live in Bristol. And some of these people got phone called because the people would look through the telephone directory and find them, and they were a real person. They'd ring up and say, is it really true what you said? And they'd say, yes, it's true. So they would ring me up and said, I've had about 5 or 6 phone calls.
Wow.
So people would look them up to see if it was true. And the result was, we just sold thousands of products.
So that's really clever. I mean, in terms of like the whole kind of marketing and the copy that you wrote in there, I mean, was that just something you learned over time, or was it some sort of structured approach there, or did you learn that from someone else? Or What was the mechanism there?
That's a great question, Jatinder. It reminds me of how I started. I worked for this software company, and one day the guy came to see us, and he had a basic computer language which was called STOS for the Atari ST.
Right.
It stands for ST operating system. It was just a basic programming language, but what it had within it were sprite commands to move objects around the screen. So if you know anything about games, you have the graphical elements called sprites, and they're sent on paths, so they'll swing backwards and forwards.
Right.
So if the program ends, the sprites still move, or if they're rotating, moving in a circle, they work in the background. So I thought, well, we won't call this STOS basic in the UK. It had only done a couple of thousand units in France. It was a French product. We will call it, so my idea was to call it STOS, the game creator.
Okay.
So I promoted that, and it did very, very well. So we did easily 25,000 units, I think. And that was, my packaging concept and the way it was all going to be put together in the games.
Yep.
But anyway, we were doing an upgrade, as it were, to a particular program. And we were going to go to, because I'd put a registration form in the box, we had a few thousand registration cards came back, so we had some names.
Sure.
So I thought, if we write to these people in the post and tell them about this upgrade thing, we'd see, we might get a response. So how I was going to write a letter. So what I did was I found a sales letter that I'd received in the post, like a piece of junk mail or whatever. Yeah. And it was I don't know what it was about, but I took the structure and I rewrote it using some of the same phrases, but relevant to this piece of software.
I see.
So it was a two-sided letter, and I didn't even know it had a signature, so I got my signature digitized and I did some underlining and so on, and we sent that out. So it was literally 5% of the text, 10% of the text was the same, but the rest was mine.
Sure.
And that did I think it was a 35% response. In other words, for every 3 people that got it, 1 bought, which is phenomenally high. Actually, it was 36% response. And the mail order house who was sending all the products out was staggered at this. Never heard of, but never seen this before. But one of the reasons was that this audience was hot to trot. They really were excited to read about this.
Yep.
So I realized I needed to mimic what was going on. I think it's a great lesson, which is to study winning sales letters and have a red pen. Because if you're just reading it, you go into like a trance and you're not really seeing how it's put together. But if you take a red pen and say, all right, so this section, the first section of the letter is, introducing the writer. Okay. And then the next section is talking about the problem. Yeah. And then the next section is what the product is and what the bullets are. So bullets are black dots followed by some text. The benefits, and another black dot and some text. Black dot text, those are called bullets. Yeah. And the way they're crafted. Then there's the offer, and then there's a limited time offer. It might be there's a price mentioned, limited time. And then there's a PS and so on. So the call to action at the end. You start to see a structure. Right. Then you can follow that structure. And there's occasionally you might see a phrase that you could borrow. And say, I like that phrase, or you twist it in a different way. So that's how I started to build up my letters. And the other thing I did was I read my letters out loud. Okay. And when you read something out loud, which takes a bit of guts to do, because who likes reading out loud when there's nobody else in the room? A bit weird. So I'd read it out, and it's like, oh, that doesn't make sense. And I'd notice if I said astonishing, and then I say astonishing again, then I'd say, oh, well, I've seen that before, so I'd rewrite it and I'd stumble over my words, and sometimes the way I'd said it, I'd run out of puff, as it were. Okay. So I'd have to break the sentence down. Right. Okay. So I'd start to use stop. Think about where you are, full stop, new paragraph. It doesn't have to be this way, full stop, new paragraph. So it started to break up the text and make it much easier to digest. Wow. So very simple language. Yeah. So I was looking at, there's something online called the Flesch Readability Score. Okay. FLESCH. Yeah. And it measures the number of words in a sentence and the number of syllables. So it's actually a way, because syllables are based on vowel combinations. You can take any set of words and run it through an algorithm, and you can work out how many syllables in a word.
Right, okay.
So if you wrote a sentence which talked about disestablishmentarianism and the word floccinogenipialification, which is the longest word in the English language, both those words have very many syllables.
Yeah.
So the readability is very low. Whereas the cat sat on the mat, it licked at the cream. Very simple. They're all one syllable words there. So the readability is very high. So it'd be easy for a 7-year-old boy or a 10-year-old girl to read very easily. So readability scores were very important, and you notice the simplicity of language when you read out loud. Equally, I would sit across somebody like you, Jatinda, and I might read out the letter to you. And then as you're reading it, you might interrupt and say, what does that mean?
I see.
And I go, oh my gosh. So we do that a few times, and I go back and make the change in the letter.
Right.
And this applies to web copy as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, let me give you an example. So give you an example of stuff that you've got to watch. So I might say, dear friend, I am the best-selling author of such and such. And you might say, what does that mean, best-selling? That doesn't mean anything. And I go, you're right.
Yep.
I mean, we talk about this, and people say, I'm the best-selling author of this. And really, that's called show. There's something called show, don't tell. So to tell you I'm a best-selling author is a bit of telling. But if I said I did a book signing last week and there were 70 people queued outside, I don't need to say that I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. Just the fact that there is 70 people outside the room, or I show a photograph of people queuing up around a book sign. I haven't done a book sign, but to give you an idea. Or just last month I sold 6,700 copies of my book, and it was number 3 in the Kindle chart for this particular niche. People go, aha, they can relate to that. But waffle like best-selling, and an award-winning. It's like, what does that mean? I'm an award-winning presenter. Well, that doesn't mean it. What are the awards? So tell me, is it 1 award? Is it 3 awards? Is it 5 awards? Well, tell me what the award is for and when you got it. So there's a lot of bragging online, and people just don't believe it. And it's like they might read the web page and they go, yeah, but they don't really know why. And it's because there's a lot of vacuous, empty words in there. It doesn't really say anything specific.
What do you think is the psychology behind that? Why do you think that actually happens when people read, if they're reading the show compared to the different way which you mentioned? Why it's almost like selling without selling in a way, right? Why does it appeal more? Why do you think that appeals more to the person who's reading it?
Well, people are very skeptical. The default state of the human consciousness is that seeing the other person as almost like an enemy, somebody to be aware of. So let's imagine you were going to go to a party. So you're going to go to an event, and it was an evening event, and you don't know anybody there. Would you be like, wow, I am so excited, there's going to be 300 people in the room, and I don't know any of them. Would you be, well, that's probably not the case. It's like, let me just make sure I've got my my clothes right, and I'm there's no rubbish between my teeth, and let me check in the mirror, and then, oh my God, what am I going to talk about? And if I don't like it, I'll leave. After an hour, I'll sneak out, and we're back into the corner and hide behind our drink. This is normal. So it's the same when we're going to a website. We're very aware, we don't trust. We want to make sure, if we're at a party, we look for somebody who's safe. So for me, it'd be somebody of the complementary gender. So I'd far rather go over to a woman and say hi, rather than a bloke who sometimes they're not really that interested in sometimes because they're not as open and chatty.
Right.
Whereas I kind of know, I feel I'm more comfortable with a woman because I can go on, and I know they're going to be more playful in general.
Right.
So we look for opportunities to really connect. So online, there's a skepticism and a wariness. And when we go to a website, we want to see if we can connect with that individual. So we need to be able to see points of contact.
Sure.
So if we see somebody's photograph, are they stern?
Yep.
Or is there a smile? And there's different types of smile. There's the real smile. And there's a fake smile, and we can tell a fake smile. And I see them sometimes. If the photographer has taken a photograph, the smile.
Yeah. That's right.
Then it's like, it doesn't seem right.
Got it.
Whereas the photographer who is playful and engaging and gets to chat beforehand, so the pupils dilate, so there's a connection between the photographer and the person being photographed. There's a warmth to the smile, and the person is leaning in as he's being photographed, and you look at that photograph and think, I like that person. Well, of course, because they're being friendly, there's all these muscles in the face are all relaxed, and you feel, do you know what? I feel like I get on with that person. But there's other photographs you look, something's not right. It's just a photograph where they've been photographed by a guy you just turned up, and it's like, right, let's get the photograph done and on off out. You don't get that right approach. Same with text. It's very easy to throw together some text. Oh, no, here's my bio. Here's my about me. But did you really think it through? If your life depended on it, is that copy, 10 out of 10 copy or 11 out of 10 copy? Or is it a bit less than that? And I think there's a lot of 7 or 8 out of 10 copy that people would admit to.
Right.
Yeah, well, I just needed to get it up there. But it doesn't necessarily do. And what they're not doing is putting themselves in the shoes of the person going to the webpage, thinking, now, how is this going to come across?
No, I'm so glad that you mentioned it in terms of like the whole online arena of things, because from the conversation we're having so far, it seems like one of the first things that needs to be done is this whole thing about creating an interest. And once you can create that interest, it's almost like when you meet someone off like one-to-one kind of thing, it's almost like the first impact, right? It's like the first initial connection, if you want to call it, or what goes on in that moment. And that in a way is being replicated online with your sales copy or the way it's presented, it comes across. It's almost like interest and impact. So what are your thoughts around that? What would you say, how important is that in order to pitch a product, for example?
Well, let's go back to talk about when we get together one-on-one. When you and I get together, what goes on? How do we dialogue between us? And there's a concept from an approach called transaction analysis, which came out of the 60s, a guy called Eric Berne. And he says the best place to be in a connection is a place of what's called I'm okay, you're okay. So I'm okay with me. If I look in the mirror, I look, you're okay. Then I look at you and think, how do I feel about you, Jatinder? Are you okay with me? Or do I think, well, he's not, I don't like him. Look at how scruffy he is, and he doesn't seem very smart. Right, so then you're not okay. Or I might think, Jatinder, wow, he's so handsome and good looking, he's asking really smart questions. I feel not okay now because I feel that you're amazing and I'm just nobody. So I could think that I'm not okay, but you're okay. So that's going to affect our communication. So if I think that I'm okay and you're not okay, I'm going to say, well, obviously you don't know what you're talking about, and I know far more than you do. And that's very disrespectful. And it's a cocky, arrogant point of view. Who the hell are you? Kind of thing. So we can see that in our interaction. You might be able to think of somebody who can be a bit critical. Oh, no, it's not like that. You know, you're wrong. It's it's not respectful. Whereas from an I'm okay point of view, that I'm okay with me and you're okay with me, and I see you as an equal, we get on. We get on. So it's unlikely, I mean, like when you arrived, at no point were you exasperated with me, or was I exasperated with you. We worked out how to set these chairs up, and it was a playful thing we did. I didn't say to you, no, not that way, and be careful when you move that, and watch you don't scratch the floor. You see, those are what are called psychological games. They're meant to put you in your place. And I didn't say, are you going to be okay with this? And I'm a bit embarrassed with you in my home, and I hope you don't mind there's a few things out of place. So those are all like not okay places.
Got you.
We're just in an I'm okay, you're okay. And what's happening is, like when we're speaking, I'm nodding my head at certain points, you're nodding your head, our breathing levels are similar. So when we're in our copy, we want to come from the same place, which is almost like, hi. Thank you for coming to our site. Just like if you were coming to a party, I'd greet you at the door and say, how can I get you a drink? You want to be warm and friendly. Now, there are some approaches on copy, which is on a website, which is, you know why you're here on this website? Because your life is screwed. Your life is a mess, and you know it. You've bought course after course after course, and you've done nothing with them because you're an idiot. And you know who else is? All these other people. They're all con merchants. But me, I'm the real deal. I'm the one that everybody turns to. I'm the real thing. And you have 15 seconds to click this box before it goes forever. And we're wary of that kind of thing. So some of us are attracted by being put down and being made fun of online. But really, I think it's much easier. And I know we can get short-term sales that way. But what we want to create is a real rapport. And as you say, you want to do that digitally, and you have this concept of digital rapport. So we're coming from a place of I'm okay, you're okay. So we get on together. And so what you want is the person, when they're reading your copy, to nod their head and go, do you know what? I agree with what this person says. Now, there's an approach that we call in the UK called Marmite. You can have an approach which is, you say, I'm going to communicate in a particular style. It's not going to appeal to everybody. So there are certain things that I believe are true in the digital space, and some things I don't believe are true. And some people will be excited by that, and some not. So I have certain opinions about certain practices and exercises and modalities in the personal growth space, and some people will say, yeah, I like that, or some will say, no, I disagree with Chrissy's point of view. But there's some people who love my approach, some people won't. So there's people watching this video now that can say, I really like the way that Chris speaks and the way he's communicating, and some might say, I don't like the way, I think he speaks too quickly, I don't like the sound of his voice, don't like his accent, he's speaking in not the way that I prefer, I'm switch off. And that's just reality. So all I can do is be me, but I can't appeal to everybody. I've got to appeal to just enough people that it provides the kind of income that I'm looking for, and the reach that I'm looking for in my material.
So that's a really interesting point there, because like you said, you can't do something or say something that's going to appeal to everybody or to the masses. When you're kind of like one-to-one with someone, you can almost adapt your approach, right?
Very much.
But when you're online, that's not really possible, because if they're landed on a website or a particular page, then that page is going to be about something, or written up or done in a certain way, which may not necessarily be what the user is looking for, right? So when you're in a situation where you don't know what the user is looking for, but you have something to offer, what do you think is the best way to be able to deal with that situation, or help that person out, or sell them what you're selling, but appealing to what's needed for them?
Well, one thing that comes to mind is there's a great book called Influence, Science and Practice by Robert Cialdini, who's done a lot of research on how the great persuaders are able to get a big following. And one of his laws, as it was, the law of reciprocity, which is when we give something as a gift, so, like say, would you like a drink? Can I give you this as something? Then there is a wanting within the individual to give back in some way.
Right.
So what we could do online is offer a free report, a free set of videos, a free checklist, a free set of principles and laws. It could be a post they can stick up that they can put up by the side of their computer, or a set of sayings that they can put around their computer, or something like that. So that are relevant to the person looking. So they go, "Ooh, I really fancy that. That's really nice."
Yeah.
So in report, it could be, get this free report, and there are 7 things you need to do to get real report. But there's also 5 common phrases that people use, not only in their copy, but one-on-one, which actually reduce rapport and actually are off-putting to the listener. And one of them is said, you might even say, well, at least once a week, and it's really puts you off. You put people off from connecting from you. To get this report and to see some of these phrases, all you do is enter your email address.
So again, you're creating that interest again.
Creating an interest. And people are going, yeah, do you know what? They're nodding their head actually, or looking at the screen saying, I would like to get that.
Right.
So then they get that, and then it's not just a doc file with 3 spelling mistakes in. It actually mentions my name. So I mean, some of these files, you look at them, sometimes we find them and go, where did I get this from? I don't even know who created it. So it says who I am, so then it gives the list of stuff, it fulfills on the promise, or it exceeds the promise. It says
starting the relationship.
And it might even say, do you remember how you said there was 7 of this and 5 of that? But I'm going to give you a bit more. I've got another thing which you can also have, and it's a checklist before you leave the house. You do People go, so you're actually over delivering rather than under delivering. So people download the file. There's a little video from me saying, look, I know how easy it is to download stuff and never look at it, but maybe this time, really, really go to the file. It's called this. 7secrets.pdf. It'll be in your downloads folder. Grab that file and open it now. And if you look at point number 3, I think if you just look at that, things will be different today, and you'll look at life in a very different way.
So you're prompting them to take action.
Them to do that. Okay. Now, if you have any questions, you can drop me a line. Here is my personal email, or I'm so busy now, I can't answer every question. My assistant, Jasmine, will handle that for you. And if it's something that she feels that only I can answer, then I will address that personally.
Sure.
So it's like there's a relationship is being built. So then there'll be a set of follow-up emails, and in them I'm giving information that is relevant to people, sharing stories from my life. Where people think, actually, this person's interesting.
So with that approach, then it's almost like a guided approach, isn't it? Because you're guiding the person to do certain things, expect certain things. So you're managing the expectation there as well, and then you're delivering on what you're actually saying in the copy. That this is what I'm offering you. This, there's a follow through on there, which is then creating trust, more rapport with you, and creates. It's like a base for a good relationship for any further things that you do.
Very much, because it's very easy to try and sell somebody there and then, you know, like off the page when people go to the websites, buy this, buy this, buy this. But people aren't in that mode right now. They don't know whether they can trust you yet.
Yep.
And you just need, just like if you're dating somebody, a dating process is, you know, you could end up with 1, 2 or 3 days before you're going for the kiss. And then the relationship can proceed from there. You certainly on the first date don't say, let's get married, have kids, and plan the rest of our life together. That would freak the other person out. Not everybody, some would go, I'm in, mate. But most people would say that's far too quick. So what we want to do is be respectful. And so there's a romancing process that's involved in any relationship, one-on-one and digitally. The other thing is, what is your position about an audience? I mean, I get emails, I'm on loads of email lists, and there's a particular copywriter that he talks about the stupid emails that people send him, you know, with just these dumbass questions. I mean, honestly, they're so thick. You know, well, that's very disrespectful. Are really people stupid and thick and naive? Not really. They just don't know. We're all struggling in some form or other, and for him to be rude about the people, it's about, there's another way of putting it, which is, thank you for your email. I respect where you're coming from, and I have a different point of view. Because there's a lovely phrase, you know, I've come out of a divorce, and it was, I never thought, Jatinda, that I would get divorced. Honest to God. I romanced a particular woman. I was completely and utterly besotted. You know, we both came out of the personal development. We were both very interested in personal development. We were then had the children. And I was stunned with the challenges of what was going on in the relationship, and I couldn't understand why there were problems. And I studied crazily, you know, and I was like, I thought, right, how can I find some of the best advice out there? And there's some advice out there. I'll tell you what, why don't I be opinionated? There's a particular book talks about planets and people. And if you are you nodding there? Is that a recognizing?
I've not read it myself, but I've heard of it.
And I thought at the time this was good stuff, and everybody raved about the man going into his cave. But as I studied more and more, I thought, I don't believe in this, especially with the fact that the guy who wrote it actually had come out of a divorce, which was actually antagonistic. So it wasn't a good relationship. Afterwards, it was very aggressive. The relationship which John Gray had with Barbara DeAngelis, isn't it, his ex-wife. So they both got into the relationship space, but I didn't agree with his approach. So I thought, I mean, he said that women use the language like a typical thing a woman would say was, you always doing this, you're always doing this, and you never ever, no matter what, you never do this, never do that. He said, well, that's like a woman's language. Well, it isn't. He experienced that with his partner, but that isn't something that we can generalize from women. It's men can say that, and it's not always helpful to use that language. So what I did was I studied even more and actually really tried to understand what was going on. I could see the warning signs in a relationship. So there is writers who will say, look, if these 6 things are happening in a relationship, the relationship's in trouble. So there were that, and I thought, so there were those things. I'm thinking, right. So we would then look at repair and so on. So in the end, sadly, the relationship ended. But I'm left with a real understanding of relationships. And one of the great things that I learned was there's a hidden reasonableness behind every unreasonable behavior. So somebody who is being very unreasonable, it's very easy to say, well, what an idiot you are for behaving that way. Or think, there must be something reasonable behind why you behave in that unreasonable way. So I'm then that takes work to think, well, I know it's really painful to hear what this person is doing
Yeah.
and the way they're acting so unreasonably. But there must be something reasonable behind it. Why are they speaking that way?
I got it. Okay.
So an example was husband and wife at a beach, and they've come off the beach and there's some postcards, and the woman, we're about to go back to the hotel, and the woman said, I'm going to find a couple of postcards. And she starts to pick up a few, and he says, oh, for God's sake, hurry up, let's get back to the hotel. That's a bit unreasonable, isn't it? I mean, come on, they're on holiday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why couldn't he just wait a couple of minutes? There's no justification for that. Well, hold on a second. So what about the hidden reasonableness? Well, he didn't really want to go on the beach holiday. That's not what he likes. He likes to have a bit of adventure. And somehow or other, he ended up on a pure beach holiday and he's bored.
Right.
And he didn't know how to communicate to his partner
Okay.
that this isn't exactly what he wanted, because he wanted to please her because she really, really loves beach holidays.
Yeah.
But he likes a bit more adventure.
Right.
And somehow he couldn't communicate in a non-aggressive way his desire for a different kind of holiday, because when he tried in the past, he came across aggressively and she got all defensive.
Right.
So he has what's called loss of voice. He doesn't know how to use his voice. He can't think of a way to articulate it,
Right.
to express it in a way where his partner, his wife, listens to him. So the only way that he can communicate is with this pained, for God's sake, let's leave those postcards and let's get back to the hotel. That's the best he can do.
With what he's got.
Now from there, there's compassion.
That's right.
I can have compassion for that man.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, I'll tell you another story. It is in Stephen Covey's book, from memory, it's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Guy goes on the underground, and there's this other man. So he's sitting on the train, and there's this other man, and he's not really paying attention, and his kids are creating havoc in the carriage and pushing each other and jostling. And it's like, for God's sake, pull yourself together, man. These kids are behaving inappropriately. It's obviously disconcerting for other people on the carriage. That is not the way to father children, is it? Ridiculous. Children should be controlled, in that kind of environment. So we know that this guy is obviously behaving badly as a father. So the guy goes up to the guy and says, hey, how you doing? And the guy says, oh I'm sorry, we've just come back from the funeral. My wife got cancer and it came very quickly, and she's just died, and we've just come back from the funeral, and I'm just overwhelmed, and now I've got the kids on my own, and sorry, the other children are a bit bothersome. Different perspective.
That's right.
So there's a reasonableness behind the unreasonable behaviour of the father.
Yeah.
By not controlling the children, because of course he's flooded. It's called flooding. He's just overwhelmed with the tragedy of what's happened.
Yeah.
You see, when we find out some extra information, it's like,
Yeah.
So now that isn't every case. Now there are some people who are sociopathic and so on, but then there's a reasonableness behind that as well, which is they didn't get the nurture they needed as a child. So where I'm coming from, I don't want to go too much into it, but we need to look at our audience as real people who experience real emotions that have their own triumphs and challenges.
Yeah.
And to reach out to these people and say, hey, maybe there's some way that I can help you.
It's like truly understanding them.
Truly understand them, relate to them, and then give value. So for example, if I'm producing a video, so let's, we've got video cameras here. I need to produce a video. So if I'm producing a video and it's, say I'm using my iPhone, I stick my iPhone up. Where do I look? Well, I'm going to look at my face because I only know me. So when I'm looking at my iPhone, I look at my face to make sure I'm looking good.
But it doesn't come out good on screen.
You tell me why it doesn't come out good.
because you're not looking at the people, you're like looking off center. So
You're looking off center. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, you know this because this is your skill.
Yeah.
But people don't realize that.
Yeah.
They don't look at the camera, which is at the top, which you can hardly see, this little dot.
Yeah, that's right.
You've got to look at the camera. It's very subtle.
Yeah.
But your audience knows. They're not sure what it is, but it's like,
They know, yeah.
they're not quite looking at me. But they don't realize they're looking at themselves.
Yeah.
That person look at themselves. You've got to look at the camera. Now, when I'm doing Skype, if I do a webinar, I do a video webinars to my audience. And the guy I did a joint venture with, he said, whenever you do these video webinars, because I was like, you're always looking at me.
Yeah.
And I said, how do you do that? I said, it's a trick. And what I do is, you have a Skype. I move this Skype window to the top in the middle. So you, Martin, this was Martin, are right below the camera, which glows green. I'm on an iMac. You can see it's just here. But then what I do is I switch to a different app, like the Mail app, and it makes the window, the Skype window, even smaller. So it's a postage stamp size below. So it's a tiny window. So when I'm actually looking at you, it's tiny. It's looking almost at the green light as well. So it means I'm looking right into your eyes. So it creates rapport.
That's right. It's like, that's really wonderful, because that's like shifting the attention of you to shift your attention onto them, isn't it? Because it's that slight little shift. So it's not about you, it's about them. It's like, just like you said, it just creates that extra connection with the person.
And a lot of people just don't realize that. So I have people who use 2 screens. And they actually, hi Chris, they're looking at themselves on the other screen and just checking themselves out.
That's right.
And I say, look, can you just bring the camera? Because sometimes they have a camera on top of their computers. And I said, bring it so you're actually looking at me. Because then we can connect.
Yeah, that's what a really interesting thing is. I've been in like the web industry for such a long time, like 15 years almost, right? And every time we got like small businesses, clients that come on board, they're always coming from a perspective of, this is our services, this is what we do, this is, blah, blah, blah. And then they wonder why their websites aren't working or producing the kind of results they want.
Yes.
So I always say to them, you have to come from the perspective of your user, who your target audience is. What are you giving them, right? How do you connect with them? So this really ties into what you're saying, that it's about shifting your attention. So when you have got small businesses who do come from that approach, what do you think is the best thing for them to do in order to make it about their clients and not about them, if that makes sense?
Well, first, what I think there's a couple of things. One of the things that I've done recently is I've done a fair bit of directing videos, and often there's I need quite admit it, there's a guy called Marcus Kauke who's a sales trainer. Nice guy, I like him, but he's very aggressive on videos.
Right.
And he says, I don't want a friend. This is business. And it's like, whoa, it's just far too abrupt. And he just speaks far too fast. I mean, I speak quickly. But normally, when I'm facing a camera, I will slow further down. And he's just aggressive and rude. I think almost rude. And he's told that and he knows that, but he doesn't know how to fix it. So I went along with a videographer, and we recorded a whole set of videos. It was a squeeze page video, which is the video when you go to a web page and it's just the video and a sign up box for an name and email. That's called a squeeze page. Or, well, no, you do, but the audience does, which is a squeeze page or a landing page. So you watch the video and then sign up for the gift as a headline. So we recorded that video, and then the gift was a set of 5 videos received over 5 days.
Right.
So each was provided on a different landing page, which was all done in lead pages. So we recorded the idea was to record the landing page and the 5 videos, the gift videos. So what I did, I had to stand in front of him and slow him down and say, right, tell me who your audience is. Think audience, slow down, start to feel humble. So sometimes I'll say to people, tell me where you screwed up. Tell me a big mistake that you not normally shared. Where did you really upset somebody and it was your fault, as it were? So tell me that. Then also tell me about your wife or husband. Tell me about your children. What do you love about your children?
Right.
And that gets them to soften.
Relax.
See? So suddenly we slow down again.
Yeah.
So both of us subconsciously, we go into that place.
Sure. It's almost becoming present.
That's it. We become present.
Yeah.
And there's almost like, it's almost like a sacred space. So what you end up with, there's a philosopher called Martin Buber from memory, who created a concept called an I-thou relationship, as compared with an I-it relationship.
Okay.
So, hey, I've got this business and you should be having this, and I'm sure you've been screwed by different suppliers, and we're the answer to your prayers, and we're the award-winning best-selling creators of blah, blah, blah. Not really. So that's an I-it relationship. It's like, are you really seeing me as a real individual or as just a number? It's a numbers game. People talking sales about it's a numbers game. Ouch. I don't want to be a number.
That's right.
So what instead was we have an I-thou relationship. There's I, a directing, and thou, who was going to producing the video. So we're creating that sacred relationship between us, where I'm okay with me, you're okay with me. I'm just supporting you to get into a present state, and then you can then have that I-thou relationship with the camera. And there's a softness in your eyes, your pupils dilate, your face relaxes, you're more likely to smile. You lean in a bit further. Rather than lean back, which you could do on video. You're standing more upright, and your shoulders are more relaxed. That creates connection.
So that goes into the whole kind of body language and how you're coming across.
But doing it naturally, not hi. My name's Chris, which is this forced smile that you're trying to do it in a particular way.
So it's that being authentic.
It's being authentic. Somebody, there's a particular personal growth person who says, here's a great trick for really connecting with someone and really listening. When anybody speaks, repeat back the words they say in your head. Really? So as you're talking to me, I say the same words, and that's a trick. Well, he thought that was a great technique, and people go, "Whoa, that's great." And I thought, that's rubbish.
She's not present, then, are
you? You're not present.
Exactly.
Whereas, if I can just realize that you are the most important thing that matters to me right now, and I just think about giving to you, then I can feel it's almost like the tear ducts starting to open, my heart starts to open, and it's just about me and you. And what you did then, you breathed.
I feel like being hypnotized.
But it is. I mean, I went into a trance-like state, but I didn't do it. It's not a manipulation.
No.
It's just about you and me together.
It's just about that connection, right?
Yeah. But there's no neediness as well, because at the moment we need the other person to buy, that's not right.
That then shifts the attention again, isn't it? Because it's buying is like, it's about me, but when you make it about them, it's almost like sharing and giving.
It's a giving and sharing. If you're dating somebody, if you're going on a date and you think, I have to get... Are you married or?
I'm not at the moment, no.
Have you been dating?
I have been dating,
So have you ever been dating somebody and that person, it feels like they really need a relationship? Have you ever, does that make any sense with you?
Yeah.
What does that feel like?
Almost like comes across as desperate, needy. It's about them and they don't care about you kind of thing.
So what was the consequence?
It was just, back off, whoa.
Wow, there you go.
Yep.
It's interesting, the way your hands came up then. And this was something that was a while ago. But do you know, see what you did? And you went like that and your head went back. we can tap into that right away.
That's right. That's cool.
A friend of mine, Simon, he lives in Singapore now with his wife, and he was dating and getting absolutely nowhere. It was just hopeless. He said, this is hopeless. He said, I'm going to go on a no relationship rule for 6 months. So no dating for 6 months. He said the women were round him like bees round honey. And he was like, it was unbelievable. He said, because there was no agenda, I was just being playful.
Sure.
I wasn't trying to date. And, get to the next base, as it were.
Yeah.
It was just connecting. And he said the difference was profound. He couldn't wait for his 6 months to be up.
Do you think there's something deeper there then in that kind of thinking and being? Is there something that goes way beyond? So we're going a bit deep here. Right?
Go ahead, yeah.
Do you reckon there's something else going on energetically, or because if you're shifting your attention that way, it's like that thing, isn't it? It's like if you go hunting, whatever you're going hunting is running away from you. But if you don't do the hunting and you're more like, oh, just chill out, it's almost like it comes towards you.
There is an element of that, but I mean, there is a concept in neuroscience called mirror neurons, that if I am very relaxed and you're stressed when we first meet, the fact that I'm relaxed, there are mirror neurons that fire in your brain, and as a consequence, you adopt the same state that I'm in. So there's that. For some people, they see it as a metaphysical, spiritual perspective. I don't think we need to go there. I think we can just talk about two people connecting and being real with each other. The movie that for me had the most profound, I could lose it actually, is Groundhog Day. It's my favourite movie. Do you know the movie? So if anybody doesn't know it, it's a weather guy who goes to this town called Punxsutawney, and he reports on the weather there, and he gets trapped in the same day. So it's a cold, wintry day, and the day repeats. And I've got a book on there. There's a whole book on Groundhog Day from the British Film Institute, and the scriptwriter said the concept of tens of thousands of times the day is repeated, because the guy actually goes from not being able to play the piano to being a concert pianist, a master. And we know that you've got this 10,000 hours, and she was the woman piano teacher who we see in the film. She's only has him for an hour a day. So of course there's at least 10,000 days. If you know the concept of 10,000 hours to become an expert. So he's repeating the same day 10,000 times. Well, he is trying to chat up Andy McDowell, is she called, the actress?
I think so, yeah.
And she, he's having nothing of it. And he is trying all kinds of techniques on her. He repeats this amazing poetry that he knows she likes. But something's not right. She just doesn't trust this guy. Something is weird. He's trying too hard, even though he doesn't feel he is. Yeah. And not that I imagine the vast majority of people watching this have seen it, but it would be no surprise really to know the story out, which is at the end of the day, he just becomes present. Yeah. He just lives his life for himself. And he becomes kind and considerate and thoughtful, and it's all about, I'm losing it now, it's all about his audience. It's all about the people of the town that he's ultimately fallen in love with after manipulating them and stealing and all kinds. He just cares and gives, and everything changes when he gets the girl. And it's profound love between them from nothing. She goes from hating him at the beginning of the day to the end of the day totally in love with this guy. But it's all natural. And I think that's what my life's about. And when my children were old enough, I said, I want to show you this movie because it's the movie that's made the most profound difference to me, and I'd happily watch it again and again. Because it just blows me away. I
can see the gratitude from your eyes.
It's just incredible. And I think that's what it's about. That's deep. I mean, it's really refreshing to hear
the authentic side of things. I mean, because like we were speaking earlier about how there's so much noise in the internet world, there's so much hoo-ha and do this and that happens and all this kind of stuff, but there's the authentic stuff is like almost like being pushed to the sides. You know, it's like it's just noise. People are just caught up in the noise of things. That's why one of the things is like talking to the experts. I want the real stuff to come out. I want people to understand, hang on, this goes way beyond just about you. It's more about connecting and sharing and, you know.
Well, you're right. And we're in this, so if you look at the dating industry, for example, what sells and what often men are looking for is the pickup lines, the techniques. How do you get the girl's number? And that is what we're like, okay, tell me what I need to say. And really, that is attractive. But really what matters is the connection. And that's like, oh, really? People want the tricks and shortcuts. I mean, one of the old jokes is the person goes up, meets, let's call it a guy. Guy goes up to another guy in the street and goes, wow, you've lost weight. You look amazing. I can't believe it. You've obviously lost several stone, multiple pounds, 20, 30, 40 pounds since I last saw you. What's your secret? Oh, there's no secret. I only consume 1,000 calories a day and I do a bit of exercise. The other person doesn't say, wow. They says, oh, is that it?
Is that it, yeah.
And actually it's deflated.
Yeah.
Well, but it must be something else, any particular potion or pill.
A magic secret.
Magic secret, Jatinder. No. Fewer calories, burn a bit more. Fewer calories in food, also in the right food, and also a bit of moving your body. That's it.
Yeah. Exactly.
So there are no real secrets on one level, and yet they're right. But it's the profundity of there is a level of depth to it.
Yeah.
But then you have to, there's obviously reasons behind why this guy finally made the shift and actually started to lose the weight. So we're looking for shortcuts. And the reason is the mind, thinking is hard. If you say to, an old therapist joke, the therapist says to the individual, tell me what's going on. Oh, my husband he's mean, he's inconsiderate. And just yesterday, he did this and he said that and I'm sick of it. And so the therapist says, all right, what would you want to happen? What does he want to happen? And she says, the day before yesterday, he did another really mean thing. And he did this and this and this. And he's so, and he never does this, and never gets off his bottom. She just wants to talk about problems. It's easy to talk about problems. Now, what do you want? What do I want? What do I want? I hadn't thought about that. What do I want? I don't know, give me some clues, Mr. Therapist, Mrs. Therapist. It's hard to think because we don't think, because we have to use the prefrontal cortex, right? It's the front here, and it's the front here. 4% of the brain. Tiny part. And of course, when we're agitated, the best blood goes to the prefrontal cortex. It's more handled by the reptilian and mammalian brain, more the reptilian brain, which is about fight or flight. We're in fight mode. So when you're in fighting and you're fighting with your partner, the last thing you're going to do is come up with a solution. So thinking is hard. With the brain is designed to do as much as possible on autopilot. Why? Well, the brain consists by weight, this 13-pound universe, 13 pounds, is 2% of the body mass. 2%. But it's 20 to 25% of the calories. Whoa.
Wow.
Well, but we're in a scarce resource. We know that the body is designed to consume food today because there might not be any food tomorrow. Because in the savannah, we don't know when the next deer is going to come along. So we gorge today, and it might be a week before we eat again.
Right.
Yeah. So the mind, the brain is always trying to, the body's trying to conserve energy. So it wants to burn as few calories as possible. So we want to do things on autopilot. So therefore, we don't really we want to minimize the thinking.
We want the shortcuts.
We want shortcuts. We want this, not surprisingly, we want the shortcut through the park. How can I get through the park without going to the end and then round? We cut across the grass, which is why there's no grass, it's just mud, because people cut down the shortcuts. So thinking is hard, so it's very easy to go into, to put together a website and go, let me just slap something together and without thinking, let me just throw a video together. This will be good enough. I'm in a rush. I need to create 30 videos today. Let me just knock them out. But what about you stop and think, well, who is this for? Who am I recording this video for? What's going on with them right now? Where are the real challenges? Let me think of an avatar. Let's think of who an audience member could be. So we think of a guy, and he's single, and he's not had a girlfriend in 2 years, and he's very embarrassed. He doesn't know how even to approach for that first kiss. He's very stuttery and very worried that if he asks for a phone number, he's going to be rejected and he'd go home ashamed. Wow, I can connect with that person. Can I remember what that's like? Like I said to you, can you remember that date when that person was needy? So we've got to connect with that person. And then, okay, I'm now recording the video. What is it I want to say to them today? You know something? I remember what it was like to be single and know the pain of being at home at night and not having anybody to share it with, and watching a movie on my own and wishing there was somebody to share. And that's painful. And I'm sure you've tried other things and you've tried all these different techniques. But you know what? I'm going to let you into a secret. There aren't really many secrets. But there's some fundamental principles. Now, once you hear them, they might not be particularly impressive. And you think, is that it? But I'm telling you, once you know them and you layer them together, you will see a difference. So there's no need for pickup lines. Now, if you're interested, I'm going to give you the 7 principles, and one of the main ones is, I'll call it such and such. And all you got to do is give me your email address. And I will share with you on a couple of videos how to do this. And I promise you, I won't give your email to anybody else. I'm not going to deluge you with bye. I want to just share with you where I'm coming from. And hopefully you'll want to watch more of my videos. So if you think we have a connection right now, just give your email address to the side. I know you've tried so much, but don't give up. You know, maybe you've almost given up on a girl. Well, don't give up now.
This is making me almost believe it.
I'm hopefully I'm not over egging it. I'm deliberately exaggerating, emphasizing it. So there's more subtle ways to
no, absolutely. I mean, that's the whole thing about knowing your target audience, knowing their needs. If you were to talk about the needs versus emotions and that element of it, how do you reckon is there a difference between that need and the emotion behind whatever that is, or how deep does a person's pain linking in with the emotion of it, if that makes sense?
Well, we certainly need to find the real pain. What is it like? And I touched on it, which is sitting alone at night, not sharing something, you know, going to bed and the bed's cold because there's just you in it, wanting to wake up and somebody next to you, you know, the pain of not being touched. You know, there's something really delightful about somebody touching and stroking us. Oh, we don't mind me doing that. I didn't get your permission. But we miss touch. And we know that we shrivel up almost if we're not getting our touchy, our cuddles and
it's like
hugs.
Really going into the psyche of what's going on with them, right?
And we feel lonely, you know, it's like, do you feel lonely? And, you know, it's almost like you're almost sick of your own thoughts. And you just need to talk to somebody. Maybe you feel vulnerable at times, and you feel You want to really talk to somebody, and there's nobody in your family you could feel you could talk to, and all your blokey mates aren't really interested in talking about anything other than cars and football and sport. Well, to have a create a relationship, we can imagine instead. So imagine, imagine having a partner, and when you look at them, you just melt, and you're almost like in tears just looking at them. Their beauty, or how handsome they are, the way they smile at you, and you know that they're just there for you, and your relationship is exclusive, and that you are the number one thing on their mind, that when they go to work, they'll be thinking about you. And every so often, whenever you least expect it, they'll send a text saying, thinking about you, Jatinda. I can't wait to see you tonight. Something amazing happened this morning. The funniest thing happened. I can't wait to share that with you.
Right, got it.
And I'm going to tell you before anybody else.
That's quite deep there. I mean, there's multiple things that we've spoken about: the target audience, the needs, impact, getting present, their desires, all sorts of stuff. Would you say that there's a sequence to putting all this together? Is there like a process that you reckon that it's quite, because we spoke about business, we spoke a bit about relationships, and there's a common thread in terms of how you get that information out there. Would you say that there's like a step-by-step thing, or how much of that's adapted, or what's your thoughts around that?
Well, it isn't really step-by-step, because it's a bit like, imagine dating, because dating is a good one, because everybody's dating at some point. There isn't a step-by-step. You don't do this, then that, then that. I mean, there is an element of that, but really it's about an approach, and it's about a bringing in of a whole way of thinking, and also there's obviously bits of things, but really you need to understand the whole rather than start breaking it down into individual parts, because often if you break it down into parts, it becomes mechanical, and you can't do that. So I would never, let's say it was dating advice, I wouldn't have a statements they would say.
But with the whole digital side of it, because it's all binary and it's a process, wouldn't you say that side of it would need a process?
Well, it does. We've looked at the I'm okay, you're okay model from transaction analysis. We've looked at where we connect on video through eyes. We need to get present. We need to stop weeing on ourselves, which is not very attractive, weeing, but thinking about the audience, you,
all about them,
you. We're not shunning on them. You should be doing this instead of that. We're more empathetic. We're looking at where their pains are. We're looking at being Marmite, that we can't appeal to everybody. We can't be on the fence. We need to have a position. So we can't be all things to all men or women. So then we've got there are other elements which I bring in, which is story. So I brought in some stories. So I've talked about Simon and other people that I brought. I forget now. And I brought in bits about John Gray. So I bring in books and the reason I mentioned John Gray and Men Are from Mars book is because it's a popular book. I didn't talk about a weird book that nobody ever heard of. I didn't quote Plato, Plato's Republic, and that kind of stuff, because it's not what people are used to. So we need to communicate using a language and metaphors and stories that our audience would know. So the idea of story, and what we need to have is a series of stories. We need to have our origin story. How did we get into this business?
Got it,
So I talked about how I started in the software industry. And I also gave a story about copywriting, gave an example how I copied somebody else's letter but used 10% of it or whatever. And I talked about the success of that, percentage success, and how other people commented that was high. And all these stories go together. Now, when I speak with a client, often who's new to this, they say, I haven't got any stories. Really? Really? Or I'm not good at telling stories. Well, I've actually heard them tell stories that are great. So they come from an I'm not okay perspective. So you've got to get to I'm okay and realize that if I'm okay and you're okay and you're no better or worse than me, and I think you're a genius, then I must be a genius too. And if Richard Branson is just this amazing guy, do I put him on a pedestal, which is actually I'm not okay and he's okay?
Yeah.
Or do I say he's just this guy? He's dyslexic.
Yeah.
And I can write, with a string of sentences together.
Yeah.
So if he's just a guy and I'm just a guy, then surely I can achieve anything that I want to do. If he's achieved what he wants to do, I can do that too. So what is it that he's doing? Well, one thing is he's playful. He certainly comes from I'm okay, you're okay, doesn't he?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
He lives in the moment. He's very respectful of people. He's all about building teams, about bringing in the top talent.
Yeah.
But I know you must know managers in businesses who would never bring somebody in who is smarter than they were in a certain knowledge. I'm sure you've said to somebody's a business advisor, somebody's come to you, say, give me some advice. And you give them some advice, I'm not going to do that. That's rubbish. No, that's rubbish. You're wrong. I'm going to talk about me. You're wrong, Jatinder. It's like, what?
Yeah.
You're asking my advice, then you're ignoring it. So some people don't want to listen. They are what's called, they're not open to influence. They come from, if you know Carol Dweck's work, from mindset. There's the concepts of fixed mindset versus growth mindset.
Yeah.
Fixed mindset, Jatinder, there's no point giving me any advice. I'm just the way I am. I'm not going to change now. I'm 56.
Yeah.
I'm 56. I'm not going to change now. Or do I say,
bring it on.
Bring it on. A new partner, she might be interested in a horse riding. She might be interested in a choir. Well, I could go along as well. If she was happy. But at least I'd be interested and I'd want to know what she really loved about it and some of the songs she's interested in, because I'm interested. Or do I say, you have your interests, I have mine. So there's growth mindset versus fixed mindset. So that's another element. So if I'm going to grow my business, anybody watching wants to grow their business, they need to be in a growth mindset. They can change, they can do anything. Oh, well, I'm not the kind of person who does video. I had a guy here recently, wonderful man, Dominic, and he runs a business called BGI Partners, which is business strategy on a page.
Oh, yes,
and Derry Llewellyn Davis, and a lovely man, and he has a few businesses, and Dominic is the principal guy in one of the businesses, the partners business, and Dominic doesn't do video. Well, let's get you here and let's create something. Anyway, so we created some video to camera, and I say, right, this is what we're going to do. Those videos that Dominic produced are stunning. I was blown away. It was like, I cannot believe. It's like I can watch them. I was just thinking last night, I'm going to watch those videos again because it's so awesome the way he connects on the camera. Because he's a lovely man. He's very kind, very gentle. He's a father, he's a family man, he's got his wife, he's got very young children. He really knows how to connect. He's worked with 2,000 different businesses where he's gone into businesses and said, right, where are you right now? And he's helped them as part of the Growth Accelerator program, as was. Match them up with a great coach, mentor, and training systems so that they can then grow and help them, provided what's called match funding. And he's done that thousands of times. So he's great at connecting, but he's never done video. Straight to camera. So I said, right, we're going to do a video for the top of each of the pages on your website. He did them like that in the space of an hour to 2 hours. Stunning. But you just need a bit of coaching. But he was open to influence. He really was uncomfortable. Even when he came, he knew that I wanted to do this, but he was hoping I could get out of it. So when I said, we're going to do some video now, he said, oh, are we?
No.
But when we did them, he was amazing. He was open to influence. So he leaves here full of new ideas, very excited about how to move his business forward.
Yeah.
And he's excited and prepared to look at the videos, because some people are like, you might think they're great, Chris, but I'm not even want to look at them. But he was prepared to look at those videos and go, I like what I see, because he's okay with himself.
Yeah.
And that's where it needs. You need to be open to influence.
Yes. Yeah.
Have a growth mindset. Become like your children with their playfulness, and magic happens.
Yep.
So then you start to adopt and adapt what's out there.
Yep.
You can look at what's there, and if you start to think, because it's very easy to watch a video, let's say a video on your website. I've got videos on my website. It's very easy just to consume.
Yep.
Or you say, I'm going to borrow that idea. Let me see how he does this. How does Chris do that? And let me copy that. So, for example, there's this concept of carpool karaoke, where people put GoPro cameras in the car, and then they interview each other or sing.
Yep.
So one of my clients is a woman called Sarah Starr. Lovely woman who helps people make money online. Do you know Sarah?
Yeah, I know Sarah.
Great, you know Sarah. So she's watched on the carpool karaoke with James Corden. And she said, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
So she says, right, I'm going to drive up to Scotland. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to hire a Tesla.
Right.
And when I'm traveling north, I'm going to stop off at different people who are making money online.
Yeah.
And I'll interview them. I'll drive them around, interview them.
Yep.
Show off this Tesla.
Yes, I saw one of
and
them,
then carry on. Right. Now you seen one?
I've seen one of those videos. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I didn't. Well, so somehow you've seen that.
Yes.
Well, why did you see that? How come you watched that? What made you watch that?
I was just interested.
Interesting, because it was a different angle.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So she drove past here. She got me into the car, set up the video cameras.
Yeah.
We drove. I was driving. Derry Llewellyn Davis and Dominic. They have a woman called Kelly Dunworth who does a lot of the back end work. She runs a speaker coaching business as well.
That's right. Yeah.
Kelly, amazing woman, brilliant mind, really thorough and methodical. I was going to spend a day with her.
Yeah.
So Derry employed me to go and see her to help them grow their business.
Sure.
So I need to go to her home. So and it worked out. So Sarah is going to drive in there. Well, it's 40 minutes from here to Kelly's. So Sarah was my taxi driver.
Right.
So she drove me from my home to Kelly's. I met Kelly and then interviewed me on the way, as we're doing now.
Sure.
And we talked for 40 minutes and Sarah asked me lots of questions. And so then she's put that online, and then she met Kelly. And so because she'd done this range of 3 or 4 videos, she's got lots of views on YouTube and on her own website.
Yeah.
It's content. So she sees everything as content. So she's borrowed the idea from what is popular at the moment. And she's very good at doing that. And she's playful and she's always willing to try. And of course it's in a Tesla, so she puts her foot down and it's whoa, you can feel the acceleration, and she lets go of the steering wheel.
And drives by itself.
Drives by itself, and she talks about that. So and it's very aspirational, because she says, I love this car so much, I've actually put in an order form, which is a story. So she's ordered one for delivery next year.
Awesome.
So you see, it's all about story. And not only is she created content, but she says it shows that she has the money to, on the spur of the moment, say, I'm buying one of these.
Yeah. That's awesome,
So the audience aspires that and says, I want to be like Sarah. I'm going to buy her courses because she's teaching how she does what she does. And I want to be part of that. And I'm going to travel in the slipstream of her business.
Makes sense. Yeah. It's that whole. There's more. I suppose it's that when people are sharing their content, it creates more trust and therefore a deeper connection, isn't it? And that is then what allows you to have your following, your tribe, people who respect what you do and you respect what they do, and it just comes like this synergistic movement, isn't it, in one way?
Exactly. Now, one thing that's worth knowing, which is another element, so you've got all these elements come together, is something called Dunbar's number.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of Dunbar's number?
No, I don't think I've.
There you go. We're going to teach something else. So there's a guy called Robin Dunbar who is a lecturer here in the UK and a number of books. And he has come up with a concept which is now called Dunbar's number. And he's looked at the number of friends that we can have.
Okay.
Right. So you may know that villages used to be like 100 people.
100 people, yeah.
There was a centurions, there'd be 100 soldiers together.
Yeah.
We know that some very successful businesses, they have divisions of about 100 people. If it goes beyond 100, a chunk of people are taken away because the 100 people can work together. So this is a phenomenon, and he's noticed this, and he says, also let's look at our closest friends, and we have 10 to 15 very close friends. And if we have, let's say, 15 very close people, and we get a new partner, so we're single with 15, we often end up with losing 2 of those.
Right.
So a new partner, a life partner, means that we lose 2 of the 15, so we're down to 13 plus this new partner.
Right.
Very interesting. So he's written about this. So, and it's kind of like, wow, Dunbar's number. So let's imagine we have. So he says there's like a 10 or a 15, and then there's a next level out. There's 30. Next level out is you've heard the concept. There you go. So because it's become a meme, M-E-M-E. It's almost like a viral piece of information that's spread. And there's levels to me to come back to that. But what we know is, let's look at emails. So if we're signing up to different email lists, how many can we really be interested in? Well, 6 or 7 or 8 really. So let's say, okay, I'm on Sarah's list, so I'll make sure I read every one of Sarah's, and I have a friend of mine, Michael Wilding, lovely, incredibly lovely man, and he has a list, and he's emailing out. And then I've got Rob Cornish, is a friend of mine in Bude, Cornwall, and he has some really interesting stuff that he sends round. And Martin Avis is a friend of mine, and he has his list. And he sends out his Kickstart newsletter, and he talks about the movies he's seen with his wife, because he takes afternoons off, watches the movie with his wife when it's all nice and quiet, and then he comes home, sends an email promoting an affiliate offer, and that's how he makes a 6-figure income. Delightful. So I can read this, but I haven't got time to read that many more. So you've got to look at who are you opening the emails to, and your audience is only opening 6 or 7 emails on a regular basis. So you need to be one of those 6 or 7.
That's right.
So you need to think, and thinking is hard. As I said, thinking is hard. So we then need to create emails on a regular basis, because we need to let people know regularly that we exist.
That's right. So we're still here.
We're still here. I'm not disappeared off the planet. We're still here, and we say something, and there comes a moment where people go, this is interesting. And then there comes a day, it's like, I am in such pain right now. Something is not working. A good example was a few years ago. I'm a direct mail guy. I'm a content guy. I can create WordPress sites, landing page, and all the rest. But one-on-one, getting consultancy clients, how do you do that? How do you sign people up for multiple days where they're coming here and I'm going to rebuild the business? How do they trust me? And I had a few people who are interested at a particular time, but they were slipping through my fingers, and it's like, ouch, that's a lot of money. My charge out rate's expensive. So I thought, I was in that's because I've wasted time. I'd gone into London, met these people, gone and met them again, and then they'd slipped through my fingers, and they bought somebody else's thing, and I knew it wasn't very good. So I was in pain. So I went online to look at how to sell. And I bought a course for $500 there, and I read the guy's website, and I bought a course. I'm in pain. I go searching. Equally, I'm on somebody's list, and there comes a point when I'm thinking, right, I need to do some Facebook advertising, and I need to do it really well. So Facebook. Something comes in today about Facebook and how to, some examples of really great Facebook campaigns, and the best way to create, the newest way of creating a a lead magnet that really works because things are shifting all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I buy that course for $100, $200, $500, whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's there right now. So we need to be crafting something that we're sending out every day, 2 days, 3 days, that people are going to open and feel they've got value.
Okay.
So principles are few, stories are infinite. So you talked off camera about a woman called Jeanette Switzer.
That's right, yeah.
So if anybody doesn't know, Jeanette wrote The Success Principles with Jack Canfield.
Yeah.
So she was the main person who pulled it together, but it's Jack's is the main name on it. Now I know Janet from years ago. We did a consultation together.
Sure.
When she was with a woman called Laurie, I partnered with her. Lovely woman, I thought, very smart, this Janet. And she has this book called Success Principles. And there are not that many principles. But for each principle, there's a set of stories. And she used different writers like John DeMartini, Jack Canfield, Mark Victor Hansen, and all the rest with their stories. So if you look at the principles that I teach about connection, and then let's say over the course of these videos, I've covered 15 concepts. Well, each of those, there's multiple stories. But then my stories about my life, based on the fact that I was married now divorced, got 2 children. My boys are now 17 and nearly 14. You know, my parents are still alive and I see them. I've got my siblings, I've got my friends. So I've got stories, there's things I'm involved in, like the local, I live in Woking outside west of London, so I'm involved with Woking Speakers Club, so I'm on the committee there, so there's stories about that. I've had all the 30, I told you before, I had 35 people in this room for a Woking Speakers evening and filmed it all, and we've, and we've had snacks and everything, and that worked, and I love doing so. So these are stories I can tell, and also I take photographs. So and also there's been times when I've been ill. I had kidney stones several months ago, and I was staggeringly poorly, and that creates content. But I linked that in with a product I was promoting, and I got 50 or 60, 70 sales. So the principles are few, stories are many, but it's knowing that there's a story all the time. So there's a story about you coming today. I took a couple of photographs of the setup. We'll get some more photographs before you leave.
Absolutely.
And then I can use those and say, Jacinda was here. And what people don't know is that your brother is here as well.
That's right.
So I'm in Jots, which is fantastic. And, there's a story in that. And then you have your story. So if you were emailing your list, you'd have a story from your perspective. And the lesson from that, which could be, you should be making your own videos. I'll have my angle linked in with some kind of offer, or just ask me a question. If you've got any pains you're going through right now, let me know. I'd be interested to find out. But then I've got a story, and what I know is every day there's a story. Because our mind crafts the whole of our reality from story.
Wow.
And it's knowing that. So the reason I'm the way I am, which is I teach the way I am, is I've gone through pain. I've gone through a painful divorce. It's like it's a wrench. I left my wife, now divorced, and left her with the children. Ouch. But I've learned from that. So out of pain, I've learned an awful lot. I could see what wasn't working, know what works. If I'm dating, I can see that particular person, they seem to be fixed mindset. They're not listening, they're not nodding. When I'm speaking, when it's their turn to speak, they completely change the subject, so they're obviously not listening. It's like warning signs,
Warning signs, Wow, So about getting present, knowing them, understanding them.
But you've been on dates where you with somebody and 3 hours goes past in a blink, and you've only just scratched the surface, and you just can't wait to see that person again. That's magic, isn't it?
That's magic, absolutely.
And when what we really want in a relationship is where the other person is such a mystery to us and so fascinating that's an endless source of fascination.
Yeah.
So equally, if that's what we want in a relationship, we want that in our business relationship with our clients, with our web audience.
That's right, yeah.
That they are endlessly fascinated in what we have to say.
As long as it adds value to their pain points, right?
Yeah.
And their needs. Yeah.
And you know, I've had emails from people in the past saying, "Oh, Chris, I've had another letter from you, another point of contact," and I told myself I'm never going to buy anything. I've got enough courses, but I read your material, heard what you had to say, and you've got me again.
Yes.
So the cross, but in a playful way, and I can't wait to get this thing because it's really exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely watch out for Chris's copywriting skills on that.
But it's behind the words. People come to me and say, "Chris, you know, like when Derry came, one of the things he wanted was some great headlines for emails." I said, "It's not the headlines. It's your intent behind. It's your understanding that this is a whole process.
Yeah.
It's a way of thinking about creating content and understanding your audience, which he hadn't quite got before because he's a brilliant presenter on stage.
Sure.
But we get a response from the audience. It's different when you've got an email list.
Yes, yep.
So that's what it's about. It's really understanding what this audience needs. And if you provide it right, you can double your business in the next year if you're a consultant client or whatever. And that's what you deserve to have happen.
Yeah. Amazing. Wow. You see, when you have someone who's gone through the experience of something, the amount of content that comes out, the value that they add is just totally amazing. Chris, is there any last words or summaries that you want to sum up on today, or anything else you want to say on this? Or?
Well, the only thing I can say is, if anybody's interested, come and join me at my website. My website is christopherjohnpayne.com.
Yep.
I know what we could do. I haven't got it. We could create a special page.
Sure.
How about we create christopherjohnpayne.com/Jatinder.
Okay.
Which is JATINDER.
That's right.
Yes. So if anybody watching goes to /Jatinder, we'll put together a little special set of presents for people.
Yeah, sure.
So there'll be a couple of things I know that they can have for free, but I've got a couple of things which I normally charge for, and they can have those for free. So if they go there, they'll be able to get that material.
Okay.
So it's Christopher John Payne /Jatinder.
Yeah.
I do have an online course if anybody's interested. They can work with me individually. So often people work with me over Skype. They also come to my home and they come for a day or 2 days or 3 days. There's a room at the end which you'll see where my video equipment is, but also there's a big bed there and very comfortable, and they have their own bathroom, so they come and stay and we work on their business.
Oh yes, yeah.
The way I generally work is people should generally look at multiplying their income by what their projects is. Whatever they pay me, they should get 10 times that back in profit.
Sure.
So if imagine somebody paid me £1,000, they would want to get 10,000 back, and I would only be happy if they got £5,000 to £10,000 back in pure profit.
Sure.
And it's very important that I work with people that can do that, and there's every reason that you can do that. But my job is always about the audience, the person I'm with, which is I have to be of service to them and deliver real value, so they in 6 months' time can say the best thing I ever did was come and spend a day with Chris or 2 days. Like, for me, I want to know that you leave here with some video footage that you are delighted, and you don't drive back with Amandjot and go, there wasn't that much there, was there? That wouldn't be, that's not respectful to you, because you've driven for an hour or something to get here. That's a chunk. There's 2 of you. You've driven for an hour. You've been here a couple of hours all in total. So it's 4 hours at least of your day. And you could have been doing other things. And it has to be the best use of your time. And I have to be respectful of that. And you've also, if you want to be successful online, you've got to be very respectful of your audience. If you're going to record a 5-minute video, you've got to make sure it's the best video that you possibly can. Doesn't need to be staggering production values, but you need to deliver real value. You do that, you over deliver for your audience, and they will want more. They say, I want more. And what I know is I've actually received a set of emails from somebody and I thought this is real content and I can feel a need saying, I need to spend money with this person. I need to buy something. And I'm looking through their website for something to buy. It's weird. It's like it's programmed within us.
Yeah.
This desire, this need to be reciprocal.
Sure.
To give something back, the law of reciprocity.
Yep.
So anybody here, if you really think audience, identify their desperate needs, give them exactly what they're looking for, provide overwhelming proof that what you're saying is really valuable, what you're offering is great, produce an outstanding offer that's like, wow, I get all this just for that, and say, look, this offer is short notice, I can't keep up this offer open too long. Those kind of things, your audience will say, wow, I want to be part of this community, that tribe, and I want to keep spending money with this individual because I have an insatiable desire to learn, because I trust them.
Yeah.
And then I tell my mates, say, look, this course is fabulous, and they tell their friends.
Awesome.
And my business consulting, I don't do a great deal in terms of promotion with my site because people just ring me up and say, I've worked with such, but they were raving about you, Chris. I want to work with you too.
That's right.
I've had a look at your website. I like what I see. Can we talk?
Yeah.
Sure. That's what happens.
Yeah.
And then the business is coming to me rather than me having to keep going up to people with the law of numbers, trying to think, okay, every 10 person I talk to signs up as a client.
Yeah.
It's far better when potential clients come to me.
That's right, yeah.
And anybody who's watching these videos, there's enough content here. If you implement what's talked about here, you will see a big difference. And if you have any questions, my email is hellochrispayne@gmail.com.
Okay.
Hello, Chris Payne. And I'll communicate with them and answer their questions.
Fabulous. Chris, thank you very much for taking your time out and sharing with us today. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you.
Richard Tinder, it's a pleasure. We've known each other for a few years now. It's a real pleasure knowing you. Thank you very much for coming along.